Have you ever seen justice walk into a courtroom in silence, only to erupt like a storm no one saw coming? Well, this is that story. A black woman, calm and composed, enters the courtroom for what seems like a routine trial. But within seconds, a racist cop does the unthinkable. He kicks her in front of everyone, and what she does next, it shocks the entire courtroom. By the way, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe if you love real stories with powerful twists. Now back to this courtroom drama, because what happens next will leave your jaw on the floor. It was supposed to be a routine day in court. The old courthouse in downtown Atlanta buzzed with journalists, officers, and court attendees filing through security. But no one could have predicted what would unfold within those wood-paneled walls that morning. The defendant was Officer Bradley Cline, a white cop with multiple complaints of misconduct hanging over his head. Today, he was facing trial for excessive use of force on a black teenager. The courtroom was tense. Seats were filled with activists, reporters, and concerned citizens waiting to see whether justice would finally catch up with a man the city had whispered about for years. As the bailiff called the court to order, the door at the back of the room creaked open. In walked a woman, tall, composed, and strikingly beautiful. She wore a fitted charcoal blazer, navy blue slacks, and her hair was neatly pulled into a low bun. Her name was Alicia Monroe, and she had just been appointed as the new special investigator for the case. She took a seat quietly beside the prosecution bench. Whispers stirred. No one expected her to be there, but no one dared question her either. Alicia had a presence. What they didn't know was that behind her composed demeanor and calm eyes, Alicia carried more than a badge. She was a former Navy SEAL, with 3 tours behind enemy lines and more classified missions than the average Pentagon file. But she wasn't here to fight. She was here for truth. A few minutes into the trial, Officer Bradley's attorney, a loud, arrogant man named Reese Caldwell, tried to twist the narrative. He called Alicia to the stand, clearly underestimating her, hoping to rattle her, maybe even embarrass her. "What makes you qualified to review police conduct?" Reese asked, sneering. Alicia tilted her head, barely blinking. 12 years in law enforcement, including 5 with internal affairs, she said coolly. Reese leaned forward. "But have you ever worn a badge on the streets? Have you ever faced real danger?" For the first time, Alicia smiled, but not the kind that meant friendliness. It was the smile of someone who knew something he didn't. "I've faced danger," she said softly, and walked away with more than scars. Laughter rippled through the back rows of the courtroom, where a few veterans recognized her tone. The judge banged the gavel. "Order." Meanwhile, Officer Bradley sat slouched in his chair, jaw clenched, eyes narrowed at Alicia. He had a history, not just of violence, but of making sure women of color knew their place, as he'd once bragged in a leaked locker room video. But this woman wasn't budging. Reese continued, now visibly annoyed. "You're saying this officer assaulted a teen when that teen was resisting arrest?" Alicia's eyes sharpened. "No, I'm saying Officer Bradley brutalized a handcuffed minor who was already detained. There's a difference." The courtroom grew heavy. Even the judge leaned forward. Officer Bradley's ego began to crack. Then it happened. During a break in the proceedings, Alicia stepped down from the stand and walked back to her seat near the prosecution. As she passed Bradley, he muttered something under his breath. "Uppity buck." Alicia stopped, slowly turned. The bailiff saw the tension and moved closer, but before he could intervene, Bradley stood up, bumping Alicia with his shoulder, hard. The room gasped, but Alicia didn't flinch. Bradley smirked and returned to his seat, pretending nothing happened. But Alicia had caught something, a twitch in his hand, a flash of something in his jacket. She knew that move, the reach. The military trained her to recognize it. She walked calmly to the judge's clerk, whispered a few words, and handed over a note. The judge read it, looked shocked, then whispered something to the bailiff. Security tightened around the courtroom. 5 minutes later, court resumed. Reese, rattled by the tension, continued questioning Alicia. "You're painting my client as a monster, Miss Monroe. That's not fair." Suddenly, Officer Bradley stood up. The room turned. He walked toward Alicia. "Sit down, officer," barked the judge. But Bradley didn't stop. "Hey," the bailiff shouted. Before anyone could act, Bradley lunged forward. With the speed of a flash, Alicia sidestepped, twisted his wrist, and slammed him face down on the wooden floor with such precision it stunned everyone. In one seamless move, she kicked his weapon across the room and pinned him down. A murmur swept through the courtroom like thunder. "Who is she?" someone whispered. The answer came from a man in the back, a retired Marine. "She's not just any investigator. That woman's Navy." Security raced forward. Bradley was cuffed, his face red with rage and humiliation. The judge stood. This court is in recess, but the whispers had already turned to shouts. The courtroom erupted in confusion, awe, and shock. The cameras didn't miss a second, and neither did Alicia, because this wasn't over. She knew this was just the beginning. There was more, much more, something no one in that courtroom, not even the judge, was prepared for. The courtroom cleared in a frenzy. Spectators buzzed with disbelief. News anchors outside were already shouting headlines into their microphones. Courtroom chaos. Officer taken down by black investigator. Who is Alicia Monroe? Inside the back hallway, Alicia stood by herself, calm, arms crossed, eyes focused. Officer Bradley Klein had been dragged out, kicking and screaming, spouting nonsense about being set up and targeted. But Alicia wasn't worried about his noise. She was focused on what came next, because this wasn't just a random outburst. No, something deeper was at play, and Alicia could feel it in her bones. As she walked toward the DA's office, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without hesitation. "Ma'am," a voice said, "this is Colonel Henson from Joint Operations. We saw the footage. We just confirmed your clearance has been reinstated. You have full access to the shared intel system." The name Bradley Klein triggered multiple red flags across international investigations. Alicia's expression hardened. "I thought so," she replied. "There's something you should know," Henson continued. "That man isn't just a crooked cop. He's connected to a domestic terror group, white militias, recruitment cells, some of them embedded in law enforcement." "I figured," Alicia said. "He tried to make contact with someone in the courtroom. He wasn't just threatening me, he was signaling. Use whatever force necessary," the colonel replied. "We trust your judgment." Alicia ended the call. Her mind worked fast. If Klein was tied to a deeper network, then this trial was a cover, a distraction. She needed to act fast. The next morning, Alicia showed up in court early. She wore a black turtleneck under her blazer and a small wireless comm in her right ear. Sitting quietly 3 rows behind her was Marcus, her former SEAL teammate, now working cyber intelligence. He gave a nod. "Got your 6." Alicia nodded back. The court session resumed. This time, a new attorney stepped in for Bradley, a slick, sharply dressed man named Mark Feller, known for defending high-profile criminals and getting them off with outrageous technicalities. His presence confirmed Alicia's suspicion. This wasn't about a single officer losing his temper. This was coordinated. Feller stood and introduced himself to the jury with false humility. "Ladies and gentlemen, I know what you've seen is shocking, but I ask you to consider, was Officer Klein pushed into an emotional corner? Was he provoked?" Alicia's fingers curled into her palm. He was already twisting the narrative. She leaned over to the lead prosecutor, whispered, "Let me question him." "What? You're not lead counsel," the prosecutor said. "I know," she replied. "But if he's part of something bigger, I can break him. Let me in." The prosecutor hesitated, then nodded. "Go get him." They called Alicia back to the stand. As she rose, the energy in the room shifted. People sat up straighter. The press leaned forward. She took her seat, and Feller began. "Miss Monroe, can you confirm you physically assaulted my client in the courtroom yesterday?" "I responded to an imminent threat," she said evenly. "A threat? From a man who was handcuffed and shackled?" Alicia smiled faintly. "He wasn't shackled. He moved to strike and I neutralized him. According to protocol, you acted as if you were in a combat zone, not a courtroom." Alicia met his gaze. "That's where you're wrong, Mr. Feller. I've been in war zones that were calmer than this courtroom." The crowd stirred. Feller tried a different tactic. "What exactly is your military background?" "Navy SEAL Team 6. 3 tours. I was recruited to lead covert investigations into domestic extremism before joining federal law enforcement." Feller raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." He turned to the jury, clearly trying to make her look like an overly trained attack dog, but Alicia was 2 steps ahead. "I'm not the one on trial," she said. "Officer Bradley Klein is. And since you asked, let me show you something." She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a manila folder marked classified cleared. The judge frowned. "Ms. Monroe, it's evidence," she said. "Recently declassified and vital to this case." The judge nodded cautiously. "Proceed." Alicia stood, walked to the exhibit screen, and tapped on a remote. A surveillance image filled the screen. It was Bradley, out of uniform, shaking hands with a known extremist flagged by Homeland Security. The room gasped. Alicia clicked again. More images, emails, phone calls, donations to extremist groups. She spoke with precision. "This isn't just about police brutality. Officer Klein was funneling information to domestic terror groups. He used his badge to mask illegal activity. He's part of a wider infiltration, one targeting vulnerable communities and manipulating the system." Feller stood. "Objection. This is beyond the scope." The judge overruled. Alicia clicked one more time. A video played. a hidden camera recording of Klein bragging about using court cases to send messages to the Brotherhood. The room exploded in outrage. Suddenly, Bradley, who had remained silent all morning, stood and yelled, "She's lying. She's a traitor to her race and country." The bailiffs rushed forward, but he fought like a wild animal. In the chaos, his foot lashed out. He kicked Alicia hard. She stumbled back. Time slowed. Gasps echoed. Then in one swift motion, Alicia rose. Like a cobra striking, she spun, grabbed his wrist mid-air as he lunged, and used his momentum to slam him to the ground with breathtaking precision. She pinned him in a chokehold, disarmed him again, and held her stance until the bailiffs arrived. The courtroom was stunned into silence. Cameras clicked like a barrage of fireworks. Everyone saw it now. This wasn't just a woman. This was a warrior. And the storm wasn't over yet. Because what Alicia had uncovered was only the surface. The courtroom was in stunned silence. Alicia rose slowly, adjusting her blazer as Officer Bradley Klein lay cuffed and breathless on the cold courtroom floor, pinned and humbled in front of the very people he once mocked. Gasps and murmurs rippled across the room. The judge slammed the gavel repeatedly, shouting for order. But the air was electric, thick with disbelief, fear, and something else Alicia had come to recognize in her years of military service. Danger still lingered. The bailiffs dragged Klein out. His eyes burned with hate. But beneath the rage, Alicia saw something deeper, fear. And it wasn't fear of jail. It was fear of exposure. Her instincts kicked in. She grabbed her satchel and left the stand before the judge could even excuse her. In the hallway, Marcus was already moving. That wasn't just rage. That was desperation, he said. "I know," Alicia replied. "He's scared we're close." "I tapped his phone records," Marcus continued, glancing at his tablet. "There's a number he's been calling every day, disguised through a secure channel, but it pings near Capitol Hill." Alicia stopped walking. "Wait, Capitol Hill," she repeated. Marcus nodded. "They're not just rogue cops," Alicia whispered. "They have protection, up high." Suddenly, her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She answered, "Monroe." The voice on the other end was hoarse, barely a whisper. "They know who you are now. You don't have much time." "Who is this?" "The walls are listening. You've made enemies in uniforms, suits, and robes. The rabbit hole goes deeper than Klein." The call disconnected. Alicia turned to Marcus. "We need to move. Now." Back at Alicia's apartment, a minimalist, military neat space filled with maps, reports, and gear. She and Marcus began digging. "Look at this." Marcus pointed at a set of files. "There's a pattern. Every single case Officer Klein testified in the past 3 years, the opposing witness either disappeared, got arrested, or lost everything overnight. He was eliminating threats," Alicia muttered. Marcus added, "And most of those threats, black attorneys, black judges, Hispanic whistleblowers, women in power." Alicia's blood ran cold. Suddenly, her laptop lit up. Incoming email. Subject line, "You're next." No message body, just an attachment, a grainy video clip. Alicia clicked play. The footage showed a secret meeting. 6 men in a dark room. One of them was Klein. The others wore badges, military patches, even a judge's robe. They were planning something. "If the Monroe girl steps out of line again," one voice said, "you have full authority to neutralize her." Marcus looked at her. "This is bigger than we thought." Alicia grabbed her encrypted device and began typing rapidly. She sent the footage to 3 secured federal Dropboxes, just in case. "Get your gear," she told Marcus. "We're not sleeping tonight." Hours later, under the cover of darkness, Alicia and Marcus approached a warehouse outside the city. It was one of the locations marked in the background of the video, a known militia stockpile site under surveillance years ago, before mysteriously being dropped from federal watch lists. "This place was shut down," Marcus whispered, or at least that's what they claimed. They breached the door silently. Inside, what they found was worse than expected. Military-grade weapons, stolen uniforms, a wall lined with photos, Alicia's included. There were blueprints of courtrooms, police stations, even a federal judge's home. "Operation Sovereign Chain," Marcus read aloud. "What the hell is this?" Alicia replied, "It's a coordinated coup, not tanks and bombs, control through badges and benches." Suddenly, the lights snapped on. "Drop it." A dozen armed men surrounded them. Marcus raised his hands. Alicia didn't flinch. Out of the shadows stepped Judge Lyle Armstrong, a respected federal judge Alicia once trusted. "You should have stayed silent, Monroe," he said calmly, "but like all your kind, you just couldn't stay in your place." Alicia took one step forward, and like all cowards, you hide behind robes and rules. "Put down your weapons," he ordered, but Alicia was already moving. With lightning speed, she ducked, pulled Marcus with her, and tossed a flash grenade from her vest. It exploded, disorienting the attackers. Gunfire erupted. Alicia moved like smoke, striking, dodging, flipping over crates. She was a blur of precision. Marcus took out the back wall guards with tranquilizer darts. In under 90 seconds, the warehouse was silent, bodies down. Not dead, just immobilized. Alicia stood over Judge Armstrong. "You tried to corrupt the law to push an agenda of hate," she said. "But now, the truth is coming." Back in court the next morning, Alicia stood quietly as prosecutors presented new evidence to the jury. Klein's network, the warehouse, the hit list, the coordinated manipulation. The room was breathless. Then came the final piece, a video confession. One of the officers caught at the warehouse, now cooperating, detailed how they had been building a covert operation to remove minority leaders from power using legal systems, bribes, and threats. Klein was their enforcer. Armstrong was the protector. There were more, dozens more. As the footage played, Alicia sat quietly. The same courtroom where she was mocked, kicked, and nearly dismissed, was now watching the truth unfold. But something told her, this wasn't over. Not yet. The courtroom buzzed like a stirred hive. Every news outlet from coast to coast had picked up the story overnight. Rogue cop network uncovered. Courtroom hero exposes systemic rot. Army veteran shocks court with takedown. But Alicia Monroe wasn't flattered. She wasn't basking in applause. She was watching who flinched when the confessions aired, watching who avoided eye contact, watching which badge turned cold under pressure. Because if there was one thing her military years had taught her, it was that enemies rarely traveled alone, and there were still too many pieces missing. One of them was who ordered the kill list. The confession gave them names, yes, but not the mastermind. She stepped into the hallway after the recess. Marcus was waiting, scrolling through a hacked spreadsheet of police transfers from the past 5 years. "There's a pattern," he said. "Every officer named in that warehouse confession, they were all reassigned from the same district. District 8, Old Point." Alicia frowned. "That's Judge Armstrong's old district before his federal appointment." Marcus nodded. "And the district head then was a man named Coleman Reese," Alicia finished. Her tone turned sharp. "That name's not new, because he's the deputy director of internal security," Marcus said. They locked eyes. This wasn't just local corruption. This was national. Back in the courtroom, Alicia noticed a woman lingering near the jury benches. Civilian clothes, plain face, but something about the posture felt rehearsed, trained. Her eyes met Alicia's. Then the woman smiled, subtly, and turned away. Alicia followed, down the corridor, past the security doors. She increased her pace, then slipped through the emergency exit behind the woman just as it closed. The woman stood by a maintenance cart, adjusting her earpiece. "Monroe," she said calmly, without turning. "Took you long enough. Who are you?" "Someone who wants the truth to win, but not if you get killed first." That got Alicia's attention. The woman handed over a drive. Every step this group made, every document, every name, even the ones in Washington who pretend they're saints. "And why are you giving it to me?" "Because they fear you more than they fear the press. You fight, you don't run. And you?" The woman smirked. "I vanished years ago." She turned and walked away before Alicia could press for more. Back inside, Judge Reynolds resumed the hearing. Officer Klein now sat beside his new defense team, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight, but something had shifted. He wasn't defiant anymore. He was scared. Alicia leaned in toward Marcus and whispered, "Watch his body language." The moment Klein's old partner was called to the stand, he flinched. Then Alicia's phone buzzed. Again. Unknown number. A text this time. "Check Jury 5. Not who they claim to be." She looked up. Juror 5 was the same woman she saw earlier, gone now. In her place, a replacement juror. "Emergency substitution," the bailiff explained moments later. But Alicia knew something was off. She turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I'd like to request a full identity verification of all current jurors." The courtroom murmured. The judge raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that the courtroom may already be compromised." The bailiff hesitated. The judge sighed, then nodded. One by one, jurors were checked discreetly. All cleared. Until Juror 9. "Sir, we're having trouble verifying your background," the officer said. The man's eyes darted. Alicia saw it instantly. The flex of his neck, the twitch in his fingers. "Fight or flight. Marcus, now," she shouted. Too late. The man lunged from his seat and pulled a knife from his belt. Chaos erupted. Screams filled the room. But Alicia was already airborne. She dove across the aisle, tackled the fake juror to the ground, disarmed him in seconds, and zip-tied his hands behind his back with a cable from her pocket. Security swarmed in. But it was Alicia who stood, calm and composed. "Let me guess," she said to the man. District 8. He said nothing, but his silence confirmed everything. In the judge's chambers moments later, Alicia laid it all out: the drive, the network, the juror infiltration attempt. The judge paled. "I had no idea it ran this deep." "That's the problem," Alicia replied. "They've made it a system. Quiet, clean, convincing, and it's worked for years." Reynolds exhaled. "What do you need?" "I need a federal injunction to protect the people named on this list. And I need full transparency from now on. No back doors, no favors. If we're going to clean this out, we start here." The judge nodded. "I'll issue the order." Alicia stood to leave, but Marcus met her in the hallway, his face grim. "We've got a bigger problem," he said. He held up his phone. Video footage, leaked. It was the warehouse takedown, but twisted. The video was edited to make Alicia look like a rogue operative attacking law enforcement. Comments were flooding in. "Who is she really? Army vet gone rogue? Deep state?" They were already spinning the story. Alicia clenched her jaw. "They're trying to discredit me before I expose the rest." "And it's working," Marcus added. "This thing's trending. You've been doxxed. They leaked your address, your family photos, even your brother's school." Alicia's eyes darkened. "Then it's war." The leaked footage spun like wildfire. News channels twisted the truth, portraying Alicia Monroe, highly decorated Army colonel and now courtroom disruptor, as an unhinged vigilante. Some headlines even claimed she had orchestrated the entire courtroom brawl to sabotage due process. But Alicia had no time for damage control, not when the network she'd uncovered was retaliating in real time. She sat in the back seat of a blacked-out SUV with Marcus, her tech-savvy partner, while the driver sped through DC's midnight traffic. Her eyes stayed locked on her tablet, absorbing the live feed from a private intelligence channel. Another courthouse security breach, this time in Georgia. A fake fire alarm in Illinois. A judge in Texas found unconscious in his home. It was clear now, the web of corruption stretched far beyond what anyone imagined. The rogue cops weren't just protecting themselves, they were defending a machine built on hate, control, and silence. And someone at the top was orchestrating every move. "We found him," Marcus said, holding up his tablet. "Coleman Reese. He's meeting tonight with 2 senators at a private estate in Langley. If we want this to end, it has to be tonight." Alicia nodded. "Suit up." They arrived at the estate by 1:13 a.m., silent, dark, but the kind of silence that screams danger to someone who's trained to hear it. Alicia moved like a shadow, her black tactical gear molded to her body as she slipped past guards with ease, scaling the side wall and diving into a second-story hallway. From her earpiece, Marcus whispered, "You've got 2 heat signatures near the West Lounge. One of them is Coleman." Alicia advanced, knees low, Glock drawn but safety on. She needed to hear the conversation, to record it, to expose the truth with undeniable proof. She crept close enough to hear, "We lost 2 jurors in D.C. and a witness in New Orleans. That woman, Alicia Monroe, she's everywhere. If we don't neutralize her soon, everything collapses." Reese's voice, cold, calculating. One of the senators responded, "She's ex-military, a colonel. We should have handled her the moment she got involved. What's the plan?" Reese answered with a smirk. "We already filed a psychological breach with federal courts. Next week she'll be discredited, arrested, and forgotten." Alicia leaned forward and accidentally knocked a glass sculpture with her elbow. Crash. The conversation stopped. Reese grabbed a pistol from under the table. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Alicia ran, down the stairs, out the back, across the open yard, under the pale moonlight. Gunshots rang out behind her. But she didn't stop. Not when she had the recording. Not when she had proof that could bring down the entire operation. By morning, Alicia stood on the steps of the U.S. federal courthouse, flanked by Marcus, civil rights attorneys, and military veterans. She uploaded the recording to the court's internal system live on national television. "This isn't about race alone," she said into the cameras. "It's about power. It's about evil people using fear to protect their control over truth. But we've had enough. Today we fight back with facts, with unity, with justice." The courtroom filled within hours. This time the jurors were fully verified. This time the crowd was ready to listen. Coleman Reese was arrested during the afternoon session. So were the 2 senators who stood by him. And Klein, the cop who kicked Alicia? He stared at her as she took the stand for cross-examination, his lips trembling. He whispered, "I didn't know you were military." Alicia stared back. "You shouldn't have needed to." Then she turned to the jury. "You don't treat people with respect because they're strong. You treat them with respect because it's right." The verdict came by sunset. Guilty, on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Tears, claps, gasps, even sobs. Not just because justice was served, but because a system had been exposed and dismantled by the very woman it tried to silence. As Alicia stepped outside, dozens of supporters waited. Some held signs, some hugged her, some simply saluted. A little black girl ran up to her with a tiny notebook in hand. "Are you the army lady?" Alicia knelt, smiling. "Yes. Can I be like you when I grow up?" "You can be even better." That night, as Alicia sat with Marcus on the courthouse steps, he handed her a tablet. "You're trending worldwide," he said. "They're calling you the courtroom warrior." Alicia laughed. "Let them. I didn't do this for the title." Marcus smirked. "So what now?" She looked up at the Capitol glowing in the distance. "Now," she said, "now we fix what's left of this country." And for the first time in years, she finally believed it was possible.